How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Jose, aka TheNYCGeek, aka TNG, aka your Elden Lord, aka the one who will sit the throne today, aka your tribal chief, aka the guy who didn't realize on Wednesday, after I had watched episode 1 of Fallout and I put out my thoughts on it, that they had released all the episodes. Which I hate that, god damn it. But so there weren't any plans on me doing an episode by episode breakdown. I don't understand why they wouldn't release this weekly, but had the audacity to release Rings of Power weekly. But because of that, I did end up binging all of the episodes on Saturday. Okay, I watched 7 hours of this, and then I rewatched some of the episodes again. But as today is Friday, date of recording, and this will come out on Saturday morning. And instead of doing a breakdown on each episode, I'm going to give a detailed breakdown on my thoughts on the entirety of the season. So now, overall, let me get it out the way. As a whole, I genuinely loved this show. I really did. I am so happy to say that. Can I get that off first? I am so happy to actually enjoy something on TV nowadays. I think it's a great adaptation to Fallout. It captures it so well. There are some hiccups. One or two really glaring cons that I want to touch on, but overall, I enjoyed it. And yes, I am a fan of the Fallout games. I've invested thousands of hours into them, especially Fallout 4 and New Vegas. New Vegas, I lost a lot of my life to. But I wasn't too big on 3. But guess what? Before recording this, I made my parents watch the first episode, okay? My parents don't watch anything recent, all right? They don't watch anything that's recent except for maybe Breaking Bad, all right? The only thing my parents watch are Gunsmoke, Little House on the Prairie, Bonanza, and Western movies, and they rewatch them over and over. And my parents really love cowboys and Indians. That's their big thing. They love the Wild West. And I tricked them. I tricked them and told them that there were going to be cowboys in this, which is not an actual lie. It's not actually a lie, but they actually really dug the first episode. So they were asking me a million questions, but they want to watch more of it. And so that's where I think you're going to have two different points of views. I just wanted to show two different points of views. People who have never heard of Fallout in their entire lives, and a guy who has played way too much Fallout, and they dug the first episode. I dug the entirety of the season. So let's touch on the show, okay? What are some of the main positives? What's the first things that pop out to me? Let me start out with easily the strongest one, okay? I mentioned it before in my thoughts on the first episode, and they continued it throughout the season. This show nailed the visuals. Holy crap, from the set pieces to the props, the costumes, the weapons, all of it. There were practical effects, and there was some CGI to help out with touch up some of the mutants and the laser effects, but holy crap, man, the vaults look right out of the game. That's amazing. The vaults look so good. Like I don't know about you guys. I was always obsessed with bunkers as a kid. I still am obsessed with them now. Man, I would love to have a vault in my backyard. The town of Philly that's in the show, it looks like garbage, and I mean that in a good way. I mean it like in a good way. It looks like trash, all right? The Wastelanders look like Wastelanders. It's like they took a picture it's like they took a look at the games, right, of a ruined city, and then they looked at modern Los Angeles and said, we don't need to alter anything, and they really nailed what a dystopia looks like. They even had the crackheads roaming through the street. They had the crackheads roaming the area with which are called fiends in Fallout. Just like in actual Los Angeles. So seriously, yes, Los Angeles is a piece of shit, like most liberal run cities, but damn it, I gotta tell you, man, everything visually was a treat. There are so many Easter eggs. Holy crap. There is I'll say this. There was an article from Games Radar that listed all of the Easter eggs, and there's so many, some that I didn't even notice. And I'm going to go back and try to pick them up because it was so good, man. It really is. And it wasn't just a treat for the eyes. They nailed the audio. The soundtrack is awesome. You're going to hear some songs that you've heard in the games. Okay. And I said how important it was for them to play that old 40s and 50s music, because I'm a fan of that genre and my wife hates it, so that makes it even better. But also because it's so key to Fallout, right? It highlights a world that never left the 1950s era. They advanced in so many other things in robotics and all that, but culturally they're still stuck in the 50s, which has its advantages because our current generation blows. But that's the visual and the audio. And I talked about that some in Fallout in my thoughts on the first episode, how much I was digging it. But what about the story? Okay, what about the story? And now that I've seen all 8 episodes, I can say that the story is good. The story is good. It's not House of the Dragons level. That's really hard to reach. Okay, but and this is a little where the hiccups I mentioned earlier show up. There were at times where there was a little bit of a pacing issues, especially around episode 6 and 7. But it's still entertaining enough. The overall tone of Fallout is still there. You're probably gonna know what's happening. So don't expect like huge swerves. But like I always say, it's all right if you've guessed the ending of a story, because what matters is the telling of the journey. Okay, how you get from point A to point B. That's one of the reasons why Game of Thrones failed so spectacularly, because they tried to subvert expectations. No, you don't need to subvert expectations. You don't have to constantly try to swerve your audience. Just tell a story. Okay, it's fine if the people guess where it's going to go at the end. Most stories revolve around the hero beating the villain. It's okay. It's not. It doesn't change the fact that we just want to see how the hero beats the villain, right? The story is really divided into 3 plots. One main one and the other 2 being subs that kind of reinforce the main plot. The hunt for the rogue Enclave scientist is the main one. That's the story that's being told on the surface, with the 3 main characters, each trying to find the scientist for different reasons. Lucy needs to take him back to Lee Moldaver to get her father back, who she kidnapped. Maximus needs him so that he can prove himself to the Enclave and hopefully make them look past his transgressions. And the Ghoul needs him for the huge bounty so that he could keep buying the rat away he needs to save from turning feral. Now, obviously, if I am talking about this, I'm gonna warn you, there are gonna be some huge spoilers. So if you are if that's gonna set you off, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. I'm gonna be talking about spoilers here, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't really had a chance to get to see this, because again, I'm overall enjoying this. I really overall enjoyed it. I recommend it. So if you haven't seen it, this is gonna be your spoiler warning. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, spoilers. Okay. So I like this hook. I like the main hook. I like the main hook of the of finding the rogue scientist. Okay. Though they could have done a better job of trying to explain who he was, who is the Enclave. Oops, sorry, my phone is. I gotta turn this off. Sorry about that. They didn't really explain who the Enclave are. Now I know who the Enclave are, and it's especially baffling because they did a good job of explaining some of the other factions, like the Brotherhood of Steel, the New California Republic. So I found it odd that they didn't really explain to to viewers who aren't fan of the games who the Enclave are, what they represent, who the scientist is, why is he trying to escape? I get it that something happened, but why did the guy show up to fight with him? There's a lot that they didn't really touch on there. So there's going to be a lot of people scratching their heads about it, especially because the scientist ends up knowing about Lucy and all the vaults, but we never find out how. Yeah, that was one of the hiccups I was talking about. But the main story does hop about here and there, which is funny because in episode 3, the Ghoul has one of the best lines in the show. Okay, he's like dragging Lucy around, and she tells him, you should be following the golden rule. You should treat people the way you want to be treated. And he's like, yeah, well, there's a golden rule of the Wasteland. Thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time. And it's the truth, because that's how it feels like playing a Fallout game or any Bethesda game. You got your side quest. Hey, I got to get to here. And then you get distracted by 30 different buildings over there. And you're like, well, I forgot what the main plot was. The main characters get dragged around. They have to do stuff here and there in their journey to get to the bottom of exactly why everybody wants the scientist and to get him to Moldaver. And the main story, as the main story is going on, we have those other two subplots being told. Cooper, the two subplots are Cooper Howard, who is the ghoul. We're seeing his past with Vault-Tec, and Lucy's brother, Norm, is the other subplot. He's back in Vault 33, trying to unravel the conspiracy of Vault 32's demise and the secret behind Vault 31. Now, the Tri-Vault investigation, for me, is easily the weakest part of the overall story for me. It's unfortunate but true, because it's unfortunate because I love the vaults, right? I love their look and I loved everything about that, but I didn't give a damn about Norm. I didn't give a damn about Chet, Lucy's cousin, or their investigation, or even what they end up finding out. Like, they find out the truth, or I should say Norm finds out the truth, but it's just so boring and there's no real conflict there to keep you interested. It dragged out. So every time that they go back to Norm, I'm already like getting pulled out of the story, right? You know, like I'm not getting pulled out the story, but I should say I start to lose interest. I started to lose interest. And I don't feel like they ever really explained properly why the people in Vault 32 lost their minds collectively. Vault 31's revelation ends up being kind of lackluster too. It's just basically Fallout 4's vault with cryopods. And I apologize, I can't remember the number for Fallout 4's vault. And for the people who are actively trying to keep Vault 31 a secret that are in Vault 33, they should have done a better job of coming up with a cover story. Like, they came up with no real cover story as to how that vault is different, other than the potatoes tasted better. And then I'm confused because it's the pregnant lady. She's from Vault 31 as well. So she should have been going along more with Barb's attempt to keep the conspiracy up and, you know, to keep the conspiracy on the wraps. But instead, she kind of spurs Norm on in the beginning. And I don't know. Again, I was not a big fan of this particular subplot. I really wasn't. However, I thoroughly enjoyed the other subplot, which involves Cooper Howard. We see his past. Cooper Howard, his wife, and their family and his friends. We see his past. He's a huge Western star. He does a lot of movies and shows. My parents liked him. That was their favorite character immediately from the first episode. They liked him a lot. And he's basically like the Clint Eastwood of his time. And his wife works for Vault-Tec as like a high-ranking executive. And he eventually becomes the Vault-Tec spokesperson, appearing in commercials for them. And which starts to turn the rest of Hollywood against him. And he's the one that kind of like inspired the little Vault Boy. I think he's called the Vault Boy. I think, the little blonde, the blonde boy who's wearing the Vault jumpsuit and is like the mascot of Vault-Tec. So, he starts turning like Hollywood against him because he's putting out this product. And here's a part where I had to roll my eyes. I had to roll my eyes and groan, okay? Because they tried to portray the Hollywood actors as the good guys. They tried to portray them as standing up against corporate greed, the corporate greed of Vault-Tec, and they meet up in a place called Hollywood Forever. Really? Really? Hollywood Forever? No, you're not the good guys, Hollywood. Maybe a Hollywood back in the 50s with actors who might have had some morals, but not today's disgusting celebrities who are probably very illicit in the activities that were shown in The Sound of Freedom. So, no, you are not the good guys, Hollywood. You are actually probably the filth that helped cause the demise of the world in Fallout. Anyway, Cooper begins to get suspicious about Vault-Tec, and he meets Lee Moldaver, who is from the past as well. And she tells him that she's been working on like a cold fusion project which could bring free energy to everybody in, the world. But every time that she tries to get like her work started, or I guess her work out there, Vault-Tec steps in the way to stop her. And she encourages Cooper to dig deeper and find out about the truth about Vault-Tec and his wife's willing involvement with what they are working on. And I enjoyed this a lot because Cooper Howard is easily my second favorite character. The ghoul is awesome. He oozes awesome. He's a piece of shit. The Cooper Howard in the past is very different than the ghoul that we see now. But the ghoul, as much of a piece of shit as he is, when he's on the show, when he's on screen, you're like, oh, shit's about to go down. Shit's about to go down. So So yeah, he's easily my second favorite character. We still have a lot of questions about his past, but seeing him struggle with the fact that his wife is helping to engineer the destruction of America is good stuff. It's really good stuff. That subplot is easily one of the best scenes in the show. Oh, actually, that subplot actually has one of the best scenes in the show. And that's also something that could be a little contradictory to some established lore. I don't know. Again, I'd have to really go back and read a lot of the lore. But the scene in question that I'm talking about is when the Vault-Tec executives are meeting the other corporate powers that basically rule America. Because that's one of the things that they're showing is that these corporations rule America and the government's a little bit powerless, which is true and isn't true because the Enclave is extremely powerful, even back then. So I don't know. But they're talking about the corporate powers are discussing with Vault-Tec representatives how they're going to divide America into vaults, okay? And that if, that conflict is going to be an eventuality, okay? And if they can't, if these other corporate powers join up with Vault-Tec, then they can have their share of the vaults to do their own little experiments. And we see Repcon, we see West-Tec, and for me, more importantly, we see a representative from the Big MT, and we see the founder of Robco, Mr. House, and those who are from Fallout New Vegas, which I think is leagues above the best Fallout game. And I think a lot of people hold that opinion as well. So that was awesome. I was gushing like crazy. I was like, "Oh, we get to see Mr. House." But the contradiction that I was talking about does involve Mr. House, because in this meeting they're discussing possibly starting the war, right, to ensure that Vault-Tec's vaults get used. And one of Mr. House's biggest things back in New Vegas was that he was trying to avert the destruction around Las Vegas, because he calculates that that a conflict is going to be an eventuality. So I guess that maybe you could explain that him having this knowledge helped fuel that predictive analysis and made him further prepared. I don't know. Anyway, you'd have to look into that more. I love the games. I'm not huge lore into them. I'm not a massive lore buff the way I am with Forgotten Realms with the Fallout games, even though I do try to read the books. I do try to read the computer logs. I am that psychopath. I am that fucking psychopath who, when I hack into a game, into a computer in the Fallout games, I'll read the logs. I actually read quest dialogue. I actually read all that stuff. It drives my wife gets crazy because she skips all of the quest dialogue, and that makes me go berserk. Whenever she's playing a game, she skips quest dialogue. I can't believe that. I'm like, dude, somebody wrote that. How the fuck are you going to know what's happening? So yes, I'm one of those people who reads dialogue and reads the lore, but I guess I need to go back, and it's been a long time since I've read, since I've played Fallout New Vegas, which maybe I should go back and replay it. But anyway, it also calls into question why Cooper's wife is even in this meeting, because it's her and this other executive called Bud. No offense, but she's portrayed as like a high-ranking executive, sure, but not at the level where her and Bud should be speaking for Vault-Tec. Like, she's not the CEO. And I think, as far as we know, we've never seen the CEO for Vault-Tec, especially against all these mega powers like, Robco and West-Tec. I don't know. Maybe the other people at the table were also high-ranking executives, but we know Mr. House is the CEO of Robco. He's the founder. So I don't know. That felt a little off. But this does tie back to the main plot, because eventually all roads lead to Lee Moldaver. And this is unfortunately my biggest fault with the show. Hands down. Lee Moldaver as a character is weak as hell. She is really underwhelming as a villain. At times they want to portray her as some kind of hero, but she's a genuinely bad person who does very vile things. All right. And I don't know if they're trying to show that like everyone in the Wasteland has to, like everyone else in the Wasteland, she's had to get her hands dirty. She's become evil and willing to sacrifice anything to meet her goal, no matter how noble that goal might be. I don't know, but they try to show that she's really close to Lucy's mom and she still has her as a ghoul. It's very confusing what they're trying to build her towards. And there's also very little explanation, because around that character. There's very little explanation around that character because they never talk about how she survived for 200 years. She's not a ghoul. She's established herself in the Wasteland because everyone knows who Lee Moldaver is. So how the hell did she survive for 200 years? It's not out the realm of possibility. This is Fallout, okay? There are augmentations, there's cybernetics, there's all that stuff. I get that. I'm just saying, like, they should have touched on that in season 1, okay? She's not a ghoul, and we're led to believe that she's like this cult-like figure that's amassed a following, but we don't know why. What's her involvement with the NCR? And the Shady Sands destruction starts to muddy the water a little bit because it's going to confuse the timeline of events for Fallout. So it's a shame because antagonists really are supposed to be crucial to the story, but this one falls flat at best and at worst is really poorly developed. Luckily, luckily for Fallout, the very setting itself is an antagonist, right? So there is, the very setting of Fallout itself is not friendly for any of the people exploring it. So I guess that helps in making the show have its own kind of antagonist. But yeah, Lee Moldaver is terrible. That's really the worst part of the story for me. Now, you know who isn't poorly developed though? You know who isn't poorly developed? Lucy. I absolutely love Lucy. I love Lucy. She is, which is crucial because she's the main character. She is who we primarily follow, and it would have been easy for them to fall into a lot of the generic woke tropes that Hollywood is currently known for, but they didn't do that with Lucy. She's understandably naive and not ready for the surface. No one would be in her shoes. She grew up in an almost brainwashed like vault where they have a very different perception of what the world is actually like. Okay. But she's kind, she's funny, she's competent, and they show why she's competent. She's grown up her whole life. They established that in the very first episode where she's basically going through her special. Special is the stats that they give you in Fallout. All characters have a special. Basically, the main characters. Special means strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility. I hope I got that. I think it's agility and luck. All right. So yes, yeah, because it's strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. Special. And those, you put your points into that. And that's basically what she's doing in the game. In the first episode, she's showing her stats, she's showing her skills. She's a repair person. She does a little bit of gymnastics. So she's so developed, man. And she's competent, but she's shown why she's competent. And it's not like she's competent like, oh, she's overpowered. Hell no, man. Like, you want her to succeed. You want her to find her father. You cheer for her because she is a fleshed out character that you watch grow over 8 episodes. She stumbles, she fails, she gets her ass beat a lot, but when she succeeds, it feels earned, and she never loses that goodness that makes her so unique in a wasteland full of monsters, both literally and figuratively. In fact, one of my favorite scenes in the entire season comes from episode 4. Lucy has escaped from the Super Duper Mart. You got to see it. You'll see. And she finds Cooper Howard, the ghoul. He's like laying face down in the dirt. Okay. Probably in the process of becoming feral. And at this point, the ghoul has been nothing but cruel to her. Okay. He's used her as monster bait. He has, forced her to walk through the wasteland with no water, and she's missing a boot, which has got to be agony on her foot. He's mocked her. He's tormented her, essentially. He sold her to a shop where they were going to harvest her organs, okay? And she could have left them there to die. But instead, she brings him the Radaway medicine that he needs to live. And she tells him, she tells him this. She goes, I may end up looking like you, but I will never be like you. And that is one of the best scenes in the entire show. Lucy, without a doubt, is the best part of the show, in my opinion, hands down. Now, Maximus, the other third character, he falls more into the comedic relief part of the show, which is fine because Fallout has tons of humor. And I found there were plenty of things that I found hilarious in the show. Some of the jokes didn't hit with me. Some of them really did. My parents laughed at a couple things in the first episode. His relationship with Maximus, his relationship with his former bully, Thaddeus, that's a treat to watch the two of them. I actually was rooting for them to bury their differences and become like real pals. I liked it a lot. Maximus is cool. And he's actually got layers because you can see that he's trying to be something that he's envisioned, that he's trying to be something that he isn't, right? He's always had this lofty image of what a knight is, of what a hero the Brotherhood of Steel actually are, because they saved them. And by the end of it, they saved them as a kid. And by the end of it, he does become the knight that he's always aspired to be. He does become that hero that he's always wanted to be, perhaps a bit unwillingly thrust into that role towards the end, but he's going to have a huge role to play in the next season because we end this show. Dude, let me tell you right now, hold on a second. We end this show on the greatest tease that I felt in a long time for a second season because they ended on a shot of New Vegas. And I was like, let's go, yo, let's do this because that is where I'm headed. That's where they're headed for the second season. But unfortunately, not everything is wrapped up neatly by season one. They definitely left some things happening. Definitely left some things hanging for season two. Yes, Lucy does find her father, but now knowing the truth about him, he flees to New Vegas. So she has even more questions than answers. Yes, Maximus does deliver the artifact to the Brotherhood, but what are they going to do with this newfound power? Yes, the ghoul does find Moldaver and Lucy's father, but he's still looking for his family. He needs to know where they are. So, it's unfortunate because there are some things that were tied up neatly in season one, but it's this kind of thing that's going on now where they're always preparing for the next season. There is enough for me to sink my teeth into season one, absolutely, but they're like, hey, don't finish your meal just yet. You got to save some of that for season two. So we have some points that weren't resolved, but so the main quest isn't over yet. Just like in the game, just like in Fallout. You hit your Pip-Boy, you get to your destination, you think you're done. Nope, there's the next part of it. But overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this show. There are some parts that I would like to see shaved off, such as the whole Tri-Vault thing. Moldaver, thankfully, doesn't look like she's gonna show back up because the last thing we see of her, she dies. So I don't know, but who knows? They never explain how she survived for 200 years without turning into a ghoul. So maybe she does show back up, which I really don't want her to show back up. She was really lame. I think she was a disappointment. But my hopes are high. My hopes are high though, because I feel like we're going to get season two. We're going to get more of Cooper's backstory. I think so. We're going to see how probably he turned into a ghoul, what happened to his daughter, to his wife, because we never see how him and his wife separated. We don't see that. We don't see the fallout, pun intended, of him and his wife and his revelation to her, like him revealing like, dude, I know what you're doing. We see that they split up at the very beginning of the show and he took his daughter with him, but we don't know what happened to his wife. Lucy definitely has to get to the bottom of who her dad is. And she may have to go back to Vault 33 because she's found out that the vaults are not really what they seemed. And what role is the Brotherhood going to have in New Vegas? Like with New Vegas, are they gonna try to reunite with the Mojave chapter? Are we gonna see Mr. House? We gotta see Mr. House, right? We have to. They showed off the Lucky 38, and we don't know what version of New Vegas they're gonna explore in season two. Did the Courier side with Mr. House, with the NCR, with Caesar's Legion? I don't know. But you know what's important? The fact that I even care. Okay? The fact that I even care, that I'm asking all these questions and I want answers, goes to show how much I genuinely enjoyed Fallout Season 1. The violence is over the top, as it should be, because this is Fallout. The gore is all over the place. If you don't like gore, I don't know, it may turn you off. But to me, I'm fine with it because it's Fallout. For goodness sake, that bodies are exploding all the time in Fallout. The audio and visuals are fantastic. The characters are interesting. And even though there were some hiccups along the way, I still like the story that was told. if you are a fan of Fallout, you should definitely watch this show. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but it is for Fallout fans. And at the end of the day, that's who it should appeal to the most, the fans of the actual product that you're trying to adapt. And to me, what really stands out the most is that this feels like a true and faithful adaptation to Fallout. They didn't try to add their own garbage stuff. Okay, they easily could have, and I didn't really pick up on a lot of woke garbage in there. I really didn't. I didn't, and trust me, my eyes are like this. They're freaking wide open, trying to see that kind of stuff, and I didn't. I saw a faithful adaptation to the games, and something that actually was a genuine love story to the games. Like, it really was them trying to take the Fallout games and put it on a television show. And at the end of the day, that's all we ask for with an adaptation. It doesn't have to be one for one, right? It doesn't have to be one for one. It's fine if they do change some of the lore for it. It's okay, as long as it's not that groundbreaking. Like if they had made it where there are no bombs or something like that. You know what I mean? I think that this was a good adaptation for Fallout, the game. If I had to give it like a number, I don't know. I thought it was very good. So to me, a 5 is average, right? This show is not average. I think it's better than average. A 6 is good. A 7 is great. A 6 is above average. A 7 is good. An 8 is great. A 9 is excellent. And a 10 is like perfect, right? It's not a 10. It's not a 10, but I'm hovering at around like an 8, maybe a 9, a strong 9 at times. When we have the Lucy parts, it's a 9 for me. When it's Lucy and the Ghoul, it's a 9. I love those two characters. There are times where it dips down, but there are some things that unfortunately bring it down a little bit. But I don't see anything below an 8 for me. For me, as a Fallout fan, that might be maybe a 7 for someone who's not a fan of Fallout. But that 7 is still good. 7 is still good. So anyway, those were my thoughts about Fallout Season 1. I'm very excited for Fallout Season 2. Let me know what you guys thought about this. If you agree with me, what parts did you agree with? If you disagree, what parts did you disagree with? If you liked it, let me know in the comments. If you disliked it, tell me why. Just, explain to me. Let's have some discourse. I'm actually really excited about this show. I really wish that they had done this weekly, because it would have been nice to go through this weekly and then a breakdown of each episode. But unfortunately, they threw them all out. I hope Season 2, they really don't do that. I would like for them to do, even if they do what they do with The Boys, which is they put like the first 2 or 3 episodes out and then they go episode by episode. I think that that's what Amazon should do going forward. You gotta, if you want to put like the first few episodes to hook people in and then go weekly, but this whole binge model, I'm not too big of a fan of it. Anyway, please guys, thank you for everything. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. I really do appreciate it. Hit all the buttons there, the like, share, whatever, all the buttons. And please, please, please take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Tell someone you love them, because it's very important. You never know when a bomb might go off. It's scary, but today's day and age can be very much like the Fallout one. So please take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys next time.